Welcome back to Menopause Mastery. Should you try semaglutide or tirzepatide, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Ozempic, whatever you want to call them? And if you're trying them and they're not working as well as you thought they should, you could be missing a few key components that may help a little bit. As we know, women in perimenopause and menopause on average gain 15% of their body weight in that menopausal transition. So what that means is if you are a 150-pound woman, you're going to gain 20 to 25 pounds of body weight during that transition. And there's a lot that goes on during the menopause transition that affects our actual metabolism. The loss of estrogen slows our ability to burn fat, increases our visceral fat storage, slows mitochondrial function by slowing down the capacity to get blood sugar in the powerhouse. We have so many different effects, and I've talked about it a lot. However, if we look at weight gain, it's not just about the aesthetics, right? It's about how we feel. It's about all the risks that come with it. So it's the risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease and other metabolic disorders like NASH, like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And the real interesting thing is there are a lot of women that are trying these medications, the semaglutides and the tirzepatide, and some get extraordinary results. We read about those celebrities every single day, but I can tell you from our clinicians, both in the telemedicine company at Minerva and my clinic, we hear a lot from our patients that they aren't getting the right effects, or they saw a little bit of improvement but not much, or they weren't getting the extraordinary results that they would expect. Now, I think there's a bunch of things that are going on with these medications. When we look at their mechanism of action, yes, they work in the gut, they slow gastric emptying, they affect the hunger and fullness and satiety hormones. So, therefore, we are less driven towards food. And probably one of the biggest effects is their effect in the brain, particularly around food noise and food hunger. And so if you're somebody that has a lot of cravings or you're thinking about food all the time, one of the most profound effects these medications have is the impact on the brain. And we're already starting to see studies showing that there's this extraordinary shift in alcohol utilization and or drinking or excessive drinking in particular. But there was even a study that came out last week, I believe, that looked at approving uh, Wegovy, I believe it was, for sleep apnea, mostly because it didn't actually treat sleep apnea at all. But what it did do was change weight gain related sleep apnea in those populations to improve overall sleep function, because with the weight loss, they saw better airway. Now, where are the caveats to that? So I also know, because there's rampant prescribing of these medications, that they're also being prescribed to people who may only have like 5 to 10 pounds to lose, or, they want to lose weight for a particular event. And I am a little worried about those scenarios because the research showed there was weight gain on the other side for the people that did not have significant amounts of weight to lose, and or the loss of muscle mass, which could be mitigated. I think appropriate diagnosing and treating with these medications also should require nutritional visits to make sure that adequate nutrient intake is happening. I mean, there's a lot of like weight loss, but also hair loss with it, which is because of lack of protein, and muscle loss. So I think it can all work. But what about if you're one of the women who have tried these meds and it's not working? Well, this study came out and it looks at the use of drugs like this. In this particular case, it was semaglutide and bioidentical hormone replacement, and showed improvement. And I want to explain today why that may happen. Again, I'm not necessarily anti-medication when it comes to these medications. I'm appropriate use and also really helping somebody maximize the treatment that you are using with diet, lifestyle, nutrients, and making sure we look at the entire picture. We don't just, prescribe a medication and go, here, go inject this and have fun. That we're actually trying to help. So let's talk about it, right? Ladies, if you're noticing more fine lines and wrinkles, it's not just about aging, it's about the loss of estrogen. And that affects our skin structure, making it drier, thinner, less firm. But here's the great news. I've created Biased Mastery Cream to help. This luxurious bioidentical estrogen cream supports your natural hydration and elasticity. It's packed with nourishing oils like olive, jojoba, aloe, and coconut, so it feels amazing and helps soften those lines and bring back that healthy glow. I've been using it, and let me tell you, my skin has never looked or felt better. It's smoother, more radiant, and those little cracks and creases are way less noticeable. If you're ready to give your skin some extra love, check out By Est Mastery on the Metabolic Blueprint website. And that's metabolicblueprint.com/By Est Mastery. That's BIEST Mastery, MASTERY. And your face will thank you. So, menopause has a massive shift in estrogen. It drops significantly. So we see a drop in resting energy expenditure. Actually, it's at least 9% on average. So all of a sudden, everything slows a little bit, which we also see because we have the slowing of the powerhouse, the mitochondria. You actually see a slowing of what they call spontaneous physical activity by up to 30%. Um, what that means is not only are you slowing the engine of every single cell with the metabolic changes that happen during menopause, but we also have a lack of inertia. There's spontaneous movement, and other physical activity is actually dampened because we sort of get this behind the scenes signal to not move around as much. And we also store fat around the middle, right? And so all of our risks go up. So now, when we look at semaglutide, semaglutide is what they call a GLP-1 receptor agonist, and it is a hormone that your body makes in its gut. And when you have enough of it, and it's very much tied to the microbiome, your brain gets told, "Hey, I'm full. Stop eating. I don't need anything else." And it even slows that gastric emptying, right? The hormone is technically called an incretin hormone. So it mimics this natural hormone that we would normally make. And so it does appetite control, improves blood sugar control, and reduces gastric emptying. So therefore, you get a slowing of digestion, which improves blood sugar control, and then therefore enhances insulin sensitivity and improving inflammation. And so this was obviously developed as a type 2 diabetes drug first, but we saw weight loss, and therefore that's what we're doing. Now, this study was conducted by the Mayo Clinic and published in Menopause in 2024. And they took 106 postmenopausal women who were being treated with semaglutide, and they were overweight or obese, and they treated them for at least 3 months. They took one group and they put them on bioidentical hormone therapy, and then on the other group, they did not use any hormone therapy. So this is why I think this is important, because I think it's interesting. It's not just because of the symbiotic effect of these two medications, it's the metabolic effect of what these medications do inside the body that makes the difference, right? So what happened? So women on hormone therapy lost significantly more weight than the women who weren't, but both groups were taking semaglutide. Now, in the first 3 months, the hormone replacement therapy group lost 7% of their body weight compared to 5%, right, in the non-hormone group. At 6 months, it went to 13 and 9%. At 12 months, the bioidentical hormone replacement users lost an impressive 16% of their body fat compared to the group that didn't use hormones, which was at 12%. This is after they adjusted for things like age, starting weight, any kind of baseline health conditions, because you have to look at those things and parse those out to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. But it wasn't just about the weight loss. What they saw also was lower fasting glucose levels, lower cholesterol levels, lower blood pressure, and the bioidentical hormone group showed greater improvements in all of these metabolic markers. So it means that semaglutide isn't just helping with weight and health. When you pair it with hormone replacement therapy, i.e., putting back a woman to what her natural state would be, you see a metabolic change that makes those medications work better. Now, what I want you to understand is hormones themselves aren't a weight loss tool, right? They aren't a weight loss drug. Although there are marketers online on Instagram and everything that will say, hey, get on your hormones and that will help you lose weight. Can they help you lose weight? Yes. It's because when you take estrogen, you restore some of those metabolic functions I went through earlier. When you take testosterone, your ability to build lean muscle mass improves. You got better motivation, better dopamine levels, better fitness activities from the efforts you put forth because you have testosterone to help build muscle. When you have progesterone on board, our stress chemistry comes down, particularly if we're taking it orally, and we get more metabolites that help us bring up GABA, which is our natural anti-anxiety neurotransmitter. So it's calming, which means our sleep usually is better. And so when I get all those hormones on board as a premenopausal and menopausal to postmenopausal woman, I keep my metabolic function operating as if I didn't go into menopause. So that 15% body weight gain that's at least 70% of women experience starts to go away because we don't see that metabolic damage from losing those hormones. Now, when I stack a semaglutide in there and I affect the hunger hormones, ghrelin, and I affect the satiety mechanisms and the food noise mechanisms in the brain, now I get a better metabolic effect. So if you're a woman and you're either in menopause somewhere along that way and you're struggling with weight, and maybe you've been using semaglutide or tirzepatide, Wegovy, Mounjaro, doesn't matter whatever name it's called, and you're not getting the results out of it, if you're not on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, you might be missing a very, very important point of how we can restore hormone levels in a more balanced way to make those things work better. Um, and so weight loss isn't just about, taking a medication and watching the weight come off. What we also want is a better metabolic effect. The other thing that they didn't test for here, but what I would love to see is if the patients were taking hormone replacement therapy, what was the muscle mass difference between the group? What was the ability for metabolic function to be better? Like we saw a loss in glucose levels, but I'd love to know like body mass, not just body mass index, but actual muscle mass to skeletal mass ratios to see were they able to hold on to skeletal muscle in a greater rate. If not, hopefully maybe put some on. They didn't actually put them on a fitness regimen. So it's likely that both groups lost some muscle mass, but it is much more valuable to figure out how much muscle mass was retained by the hormone group, because we usually see that. Now, also in this group, they did not treat with testosterone, so we are not seeing testosterone on top of progesterone and estrogen. They just did the sex hormones, progesterone and estrogen. So, what's your take-home message? If you're trying semaglutide, tirzepatide, and those medications and it doesn't work, check out hormone replacement therapy as another adjunct because we already know it gives other benefits that are quite helpful for you. It protects your brain, your heart, your bones from cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, and dementia, hands down, and all-cause mortality. When you add that together with those medications, with appropriate diet and lifestyle and exercise that helps preserve and keep muscle mass, you'll have the right 1, 2, I would say 3 punch to get to the right message for you to help you get to that ideal body composition, because that's really what it's about. It's not so much about the number, it's about body composition and holding on to muscle mass, but maintaining enough body fat, but not too much. So if you're talking to your doctors and they aren't listening to you about bioidentical hormones, this would be the time to sort of step out and find somebody that can help you. And it's these medications like semaglutide and tirzepatide are incredible drugs, but they are not a panacea. And they help, but they are lifestyle drugs. They only work while they're being taken. And so even I look at this and I go, okay, if somebody is on these medications and we balance their hormones and we get all the other stuff right, we fix the underlying metabolic activity, so they're balanced, check their cortisol, all those things, balance those things out, we should also be able to withdraw those lifestyle medications in a way that's more meaningful and not see that sort of rebound weight gain that we see in the studies and in just people in general. Those medications stop working and they gain the weight back. That's the other thing. Losing it and gaining it back is not ideal. It's actually damaging. And so I also believe that we haven't seen enough research around that metabolic picture, but I do believe that we would see that. I know we see that anecdotally in the clinic, that we can often get somebody in a much better metabolic space and they can slowly withdraw those medications. So I hope you found this interesting, and I hope this helps guide you in a little bit of answers as to what's the next best thing you can do if you're struggling with abdominal fat and other things, and maybe you've tried these medications, they don't seem to be working. All right. Have a great, healthy, and happy day. And thank you for listening to me at Menopause Mastery. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend because together we rise.